And I see so many women stuck in this victim mentality of like, I have to fix myself and I have to do this. And once I'm healed, then I'm going to be worthy of receiving the love that I want. And they end up being stuck in this never ending loop of fixing themselves when it was never about you being broken. It was just you started operating from beliefs and patterns that did serve you at one point in time. Like your unconscious works perfectly, your nervous system works perfectly.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sovereign Self Show, where you learn how to embody the leader of your life and your purpose. We are streaming on all podcast platforms, and today we are talking with Lina Maria Gonzalez about healing your relationship blueprint and normalizing healthy and conscious love to magnetize your dream partner. Lina is a spiritual mentor and feminine embodiment coach. And I'm so excited, Lina, to have you on to the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this.
Yeah, I know, like, we just recently switched the show, so it's more about being the leader of your life, really passionate women who are on a spiritual journey, probably have a business, but the relationship aspect is huge. I know for myself too, it's like, how do we can have it all, but we need to like switch and with how we operate in our lives. So before we jump into all of that juiciness, what does the sovereign self mean to you in your life, in your journey?
For me, my sovereign self means embracing all parts of myself, especially the ones that have been rejected, oppressed, pushed away because they're too much, not good enough, this or that. So for me, it's your ability to actually welcome all of you, especially when it's uncomfortable, because for those who are into embodiment, somatics, you know that your nervous system capacity is all about holding more, not less. And so being able to be sovereign in your power and lead from that space in your life and everything you do, everything you say, is allowing yourself to feel more of you, welcome more of you, and being able to pass through the fears, go beyond the patterns that keep you operating from. Because for me, being sovereign means being in integrity. And as long as you keep pushing and repressing some parts of you, your energy scatter, like literally everywhere. And until all parts of you move in the same direction, then there's always going to be a gap between where you want to be and where you are right now.
Boom. Wow. Yeah, I'm like that. Update our sovereign show description. That is so potent and powerful. It's like raining all that energy to focus, but it's to focus on more of who you already are. It's not like,
Yes.
searching outside of yourself for anything or being something that you aren't. And that applies to, that divine feminine and that love blueprint that why you're here today to talk to us about. Could you share, like, how do we jump into this? Because I'm assuming, we've connected in coaching spaces, and I'm like, yeah, I've been your past ideal client too. It's because the driven, passionate woman who's maybe overly in her masculine, maybe not, has some embodiment work to do. How do we get started into embodying this more feminine approach so we can magnetize that love, that dream partner into our lives?
Yes. So first, I would say that every kind of change starts with awareness. And when we keep meeting the same type of resistance, the same wall, over and over again, no matter how many books we read, no matter how many podcasts like this one we've listened to, no matter how many hours we've meditated, but in tangible terms in our life, specifically when we talk about relationships, if we're facing the same thing over and over again, where you feel maybe not fulfilled, where you feel not heard, not understood, no matter how hard you try to tackle it, then it means that there's something deeper going on. And that's where the relationship blueprint comes in. I really believe that our relationship blueprint dictates literally everything we do. We're not only in a relationship to a partner, we're in a relationship with friends as well, family, but ultimately we're in relationship with ourselves, with every emotion, with every thought, and in a greater scheme, with life. And so how you relate to a partner in love is going to reflect how you relate to life. And if you're always in this overachieving, needing to prove your worth and how much you receive through how much you give, how much you produce, how much you perform, then you're in this dynamic in relationships and in life where people pleasing is the forefront of your experience, and relationships are transactional, not based on true connection and deep, deep love, unconditional love, where you see one another for who you are and growing into better and better versions of yourself. And so that is the first step of like being aware. Wait a minute, I keep feeling hold back here. I keep feeling compressed. I feeling contracted. And there's something that is not flowing in the way I know in my heart is possible. And so that's the first part. And then moving forward is allowing your desires to be the thing that guides you and lead you in that. Because I feel for so many women, my clients are also mostly entrepreneurs, high achieving women that are ambitious, that want to have it all. And you said in the beginning, like, we cannot have it all. And it's true that in some moments in our lives, we cannot have it all because our attention needs to be prioritized, let's say in our business. Another moment is going to be relationships. But I still believe deeply that we came here to have it all. We came here to expend ourselves in our sovereign self, which is the most expansive, open version of ourselves that get to have all of that. And so when we are in this high achieving, of course we're operating most from a masculine because that's how we were raised, how that's the conditioning that we receive not only in our families but in the world. And that leads us to think that our desires are too much, too delusional, or too intense. And so we start putting our desires into a box, trying to rationalize what makes sense, what doesn't. What in truth is that this deep desire of desiring more in your relationships is the guidance and literally your destiny. Like, if you have this desire of desiring more respect, more connection, more growth, more consciousness in your relationships, and you're not able to meet that or to be met in this way in your relationships, then it's a big information here letting you know that there's actually more that you're not experiencing, and you actually came here to have it all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Being able to have it all, and the reason why you don't is because something needs to shift. Your energy, your scattered energy, like you said a moment ago, being able to bring that back. And for me, this is relatively recently too. I know I create my reality and I can't control anybody else except for myself. Yet, even though we might have the spiritual understanding when it comes to the partnership dynamic, we still want to outsource that. And I think for me, it was this combination of like overly masculine driven, and then also the like princess fairy tale of wanting to be saved, but like from like
Yes.
this victim almost mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So could you talk to us? Because I know you have a beautiful story too. Maybe share a little bit about your healing journey, and now you're engaged and have this beautiful, loving, divine partnership. How did those parts, like maybe in your own journey, were you able to see them and transform? And you are the living embodiment of what you teach others as well.
Yes, 100%. Like, that's living this in my life and making that a reality is what opened my eyes that there's a different way. And I see so many women stuck in this victim mentality of like, I have to fix myself and I have to do this. And once I'm healed, then I'm going to be worthy of receiving the love that I want. And they end up being stuck in this never ending loop of fixing themselves, when it was never about you being broken. It was just you started operating from beliefs and patterns that did serve you at one point in time. Like your unconscious works perfectly, your nervous system works perfectly. And so you being stuck in patterns that don't serve you, like for me personally, if I talk about my personal story, I only experienced toxic relationships, and my only like romantic relationship were abusive, where I experienced psychological abuse, emotional abuse, and also financial abuse in my last relationship. And after getting out of the relationship, I had a little awakening moment of, why am I always stuck in those patterns? Why again? Why is this the same person that I'm dating but with a different face? Like, why is this the same thing and over again? And then I was like, wait a minute, there's one common denominator in both of those relationships, and it's me. And so there's something in me that makes it that I'm a match to that. And often we don't see it, because when we are like, I feel like for most women have this deep yearning, as you said, this fantasy of being so loved and cherished. And it's because it's a deep yearning of the feminine, of more love. This is like literally our life force. Love is our life force. And being open and filled by love is the biggest purpose of all. And so where it gets distorted is when we start using the patterns, the survival patterns that we learn through our own life experience, where we needed to, let's say, compromise ourselves or keep ourselves small in order to receive peace, acknowledgement, acceptance. Then we start using love as a way to feel more connected to ourselves, but by sourcing it outside of us, thinking that when we receive that, then we are fulfilled. When someone says that, then we can feel good about ourselves. And so it becomes a game of like, how can I receive love? And you start molding yourself and people pleasing or manipulating, literally unconsciously, ways on how you can show up in a way that makes you good enough, or what I like to call the good girl facade of like, look, I'm so kind, I'm so loving, I'm such a great partner, why don't you love me? And that's where most women start self-sacrificing in the name of love. But it was never about love. It was about attachment. It was about trauma bonding. It was about the belief systems that keep you outside of your power, that make you believe that you have to compromise yourself and self-sacrifice for relationships to work. And so for me, it was first that acknowledgement, and I was already deep in my healing journey, and I was studying hypnotherapy and NLP, like doing my life coach certification. And so I had enough awareness to be like, yeah, this is deeper. And it was a perfect timing, because during that program, I got to actually go deep into the beliefs, the systems, the imprints, my past experience imprints that made me make that decision in life. Where I remember it was like the week after I got out of the relationship, ended up pretty badly and was pretty traumatic in itself. And so I had, I think, the last course of that certification the week after, which was a divine blessing. And in that moment, we went deep into like the unconscious decisions and how that works. And I remember we were paired with someone else in order to practice and do that hypnosis on each other. And I was brought back in a moment in time where I made the decision, love equals self-sacrifice. And I remember seeing myself, I think I was 7 years old, in my childhood bedroom, and I was crying and feeling so much rage, and my mom came in and I was like, why do you stay with him? He's so, talking about my dad, he's the worst person, he shouldn't treat you like that, blah, blah. And she came, of course she did what she could best do at the moment. And she came and talked to me, and she was like, it's okay, like, I'm not leaving him because I don't want you to grow up without a dad, you and a brother, and it's important. And she said like something about it's important to stay as a family. I don't remember exactly what she said exactly as the words, but in short, she said, what I received from that is like, in order to love someone, you have to accept more and more and more, because that's what love means. Like, you have to continue tolerating what's not tolerable, because that's what love means. And that the unconscious decision and that I made at that moment in time at 7 years old, of like, oh, so this is what love is. Okay. And I registered that, and I went my whole life operating from that belief system. And in that moment in time, when we undid this belief, this decision, and I was guided to go back through time from that moment at 7 years old to the moment I was there now, which at the time I was 24, went through life with the new decision of what love actually was. And I remember opening my eyes after the hypnosis, and I was like, oh my God, this is what love is. And now I had a felt sense in my body of like, this is what love is. Like, I was so out of integrity. Like, this is like I had created a whole story. Like, I was such in an illusion. This is far away from love. Like, this is not love, what I was accepting. And now I know what it is. And that's when I made my mission to never, ever, ever again do the same mistake. That led me to actually step more into my feminine power, because I knew now what love was, not only in a relationship, but I knew what it felt for me from the inside out. And so getting into a relationship and creating intimacy and connection was no longer of like, let me tame down my desires, let me dilute what I really want to say in case they think that I'm too much, in case they think I'm too intense. And began with conviction, really owning my standards. And the moment I would date a guy that, before meeting my now fiance, like, I met some guys where I felt like it was getting better and better, but then I would come into contact with the same texture, the same relationships that I had before, and it was nothing. Like, they were spiritual, conscious, they would do all the things that I was looking for. There was a certain texture of like, okay, I recognize that, this is familiar, but it was no longer the same level of toxicity or of lack of integrity that it was before, but it still was present. And because I was owning my standards, and I was like, I want a guy who's emotionally intelligent. I want a guy who treats me this way. I want to feel respected. I want to feel valued. I want to feel cherished. I want to feel... It was really clear with all of those things that the moment in the connection, I could see that it was the opposite of that. Then it was about owning and having the courage to say, it's interesting, it's been fun meeting you, but I don't see this going forward. And it's the thing that I was so scared about before, because it's like, oh, I met someone, it's so nice, they're texting me, and you get caught up in this bubble of the honeymoon phase where you're receiving attention and you're receiving what you're looking for, without feeling through the whole thing and actually seeing, wait a minute, he gives me attention, but then he goes hot and cold. He says one thing, but then does another. And all of that is that kind of pushed away on the side, because you're truly looking for to be in a relationship. But at the end of the day, the goal is not being in a relationship. The goal is not securing the ring, is not securing the man. The goal is being able to be yourself so fully that you feel safe, and that you are with someone that creates a deep connection and safety for you to become the best version of yourself, and more importantly, becoming the woman who actually has her own back. That, in my opinion, is like the biggest flex of healing your relationship blueprint. Yeah, the relationship is amazing, it's fun, but it's so much more powerful to know that no matter your circumstances, no matter if, like, even today, like, if for some reason the relationship I'm in ends and now we're engaged, it's like, before I would be like, oh my God, imagine. And of course there would be a grief and loss, but I have the conviction and the courage in my heart of knowing that what I deserve first, and knowing that no matter how things move in my life, I'm always being guided to my highest expression. And having that conviction and that courage in your heart is truly what changes everything.
Mm. Wow. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And that's, I mean, that last part, I'm sure the listeners can relate. I can relate too. That's the part where my subconscious beliefs really want to like attach to. It's the act of like putting your own, I want to say your own love for yourself first and what you desire, and having a non-attachment on way a relationship needs to be or needs to work out, and instead of the control wanting, no, no, this has to be it. This has to, the anxiousness of it all, attachment, and be able to let it go and trust. That's what I heard from you, the deep
Yes.
trust in the process.
Yes. It's a trust in yourself and the trust in the vision as well of like, this is what I envisioned for myself. And if it's not yet in front of me, then that means that this is not the end. And I must trust that the next step and the next step is going to bring me closer and closer. And that's why I say, like, this, how you relate to your desires, is the direct reflection of your relationship blueprint. And ultimately, like, what you manifest, because it's the reflection of your relationship with life. It's like, are you in a relationship where you are seeking approval from Sky Daddy and like, if I do this, now I'm worthy. If I don't do this, now I'm not worthy. Whereas seeing that you are embraced by the divine masculine, supported, cared for, cherished, provided, and that is going to be a reflection of the type of masculine you're entertaining or interacting with, and the type of relationships you are entertaining with the masculine. When you're able to be supported by the greater masculine energy of life, then it's like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. And that's when you
Yes.
surrender into your feminine, because you're like, okay. No
Yeah.
need to hold it all together. No need to perform. No need to convince anyone. I can just be myself, open my heart, and
Even my body, you saying that, my body's like, yes. Yeah. Because we all, especially if you're, in your feminine as a woman, that's what you desire. And you don't need that partner outside of you. And my next question, I know we only have a few minutes left, but we talked a lot about like the feminine embodiment today. Like, if you could summarize, like, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? You kind of described the divine masculine and how it holds space for that feminine, but I would love to hear your perspective on that.
yes, I can give a little comparison between the two. Sometimes it's easier to comprehend. So the feminine is really like the unseen, where the masculine is like what we see, physical, tangible reality. And so the masculine is often like the energy of consciousness, light, whereas the feminine is the unconscious, the chaos, the darkness. And not because chaos in bad things, but in terms of chaos is a full range of textures. It's like the intensity, the immensity of life. And so the feminine is really the full expression of life. And the feminine, the yin, is really the earth, the body, the sensations, the feelings, whereas the masculine energy is more rational thinking, linear thinking, mindset, mind. And when we start living from our feminine, what it really means is that we are led by our heart, and we are led by the life force that is not seeable with the physical eyes. It's something that it goes beyond what we can see. It's like it's literally being in a intimate relationship with the unseen. Our vision, our emotions, our callings, or divine callings, which I like to call, which is like what I see, like your destiny and God, your higher self is guiding you towards. So it's like being able to move the unseen into tangible form, and most importantly, to be one with your heart, meaning every sensation, every movement, energies that are moving through you, and being able to soften into that. And the reason I often perceive the feminine as surrender is that it requires deep level of faith and trust to be able to surrender. And there needs to be safety for the feminine to be able to surrender, because if your nervous system is always just like in chaos, but like negative chaos, and you're not able to feel yourself in survival, always in survival, then there's going to be a part of you that naturally and with all reasons want to protect itself and close off. And that's why when I say, when you embrace those part of you that are closing off, when you are embracing your dark feminine energy, which is all the parts of you that are deemed too much, not good enough, dark, not, let's say, grief, loss, sadness, frustration, anger. There's so much meaning around that for women to go there because it means something about us. But when you're able to tap into that, you're actually moving all the energy that keeps you stuck in that contraction, that keeps you like, oh no, I need to defend myself, I need to protect myself because here it's not safe. Whereas when you welcome all of that and are in touch with the unseeable, what's living inside of you, what's alive inside of you, then there's so much more energy moving and your flow is much more bigger than if you're always in contraction. And what I like to say, it's like, you cannot be open and close at the same time. You're either closing from yourself, you're either closing from life, or you're opening and opening again and opening again and opening again. And that's how you build the capacity in your nervous system to receive more. Because if you're always like in your masculine, like, I need to figure this out, I have to hold it together, I need to do this, go, 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 I have to prove, then you're not really in touch with the deep desires of your heart, which is not that.
I love what you said. You're either open or you're closed. You can't. And I think say the same thing to myself, but I always say, it's attuned to you're in love or you're not with life. It's just like you're either pregnant or you're not. There's no it's one or the other,
Yeah.
which is so powerful because once you start working with this, you start to build that awareness of your body, and working with a mentor like Lina, how to build that, becoming your own embodiment goddess and queen. You start to notice that. You build that awareness that Lina was talking about, and you realize, ooh, I really am closed a lot of the time, which is great because once you have the awareness, you can start to shift and change and embody more of that feminine energy. And only have a few minutes left, but thank you so much, Lina, for coming on. I know so many women listen to this are going to want to learn more. I know it resonated with me too. How may we be of service for you in return today as a huge act of gratitude for sharing your wisdom with us all?
The best way would be to honor your heart and to practice what it is to be in contact with your heart. So if that means sitting like 2 minutes per day and just breathing into your heart space, and every time you exhale, imagine you're coming into contact a little deeper, a little deeper. Energy doesn't lie. Like, really quickly, you'll come into contact with whatever is in the way, whatever is keeping that closure, if your heart is closed. And also, through that sensation of closure, you'll have the information. Literally, your body already knows, like, what your mind hasn't conceptualized and grasped yet. And when you are creating space to hold that, that's when you're creating the safety with yourself and giving you all the opportunities to open more and more and more. But it all starts with yourself. So making that a priority not only are going to become a match to everything you want, but also how you're going to change the world.
Wow. Thank you so much. Powerful note to end on. Thank you so much, Lina, for coming on. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it, write a review. That's going to help amplify beautiful voices and energy like Lina's here today. Until next time, everybody.